Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the DX Mentor. We have a special announcement about the CQ Marathon program today, something called the CQ Marathon Challenge. Thank you for joining us. I'm Bill, AJB, the DX Mentor. In this episode, we will receive an update on the CQ Marathon program from the program director, Mark, WC3W. He will give us some results from 2023, and then he will announce an addition to the 2024 program. We will also be joined by Joe, W8GEX. Now, let's tune in and find out what all the excitement is about. Hello and good evening and welcome to this special edition of the DX Mentor podcast. We're really excited tonight. We have a couple of returning guests that is going to give us an update and an announcement on a program that's near and dear to my heart, and that is the CQ Marathon. It's by far become my favorite passion. I explained to Mark recently at the end of last year, I had my best number ever. And all of a sudden on January, I realized, oh, there's a couple of things that won't be on next year. What am I going to do? And then by golly, by January 2nd, I picked up 5 that I hadn't worked last year. So now I'm ready to go again. So it's a vicious cycle. It can't be helped. And we want to share some of this excitement tonight. So with me tonight is Joe, W8GEX. Joe, you doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Carry
All right,
on,
buddy.
Bill.
And we have the special guest is Mark, WC3W, who is the program administrator for CQ Marathon. So Mark, if you can start off letting us know how you're doing and how did 2023 end up?
It ended up great, and Bill and Joe, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on here. One of my biggest challenges since I took over this program was getting the word out, frankly. I did over 60 Zoom meetings last year, and I'll be honest with you, I'm amazed at how many people have never heard of DX Marathon. And I'm talking about veteran ham radio operators and people that are involved in DXing, And so, when I sat down and took this program over, and I did it like I was forming a company. I did a vision statement, a mission statement. We wrote down all the processes and everything. And my vision was to double or triple this program in 2 to 3 years, based on my understanding of what I saw out there, based on a lot of discussions with K9EL, my predecessor for 17 years, literally single-handedly ran this program. I thought it was possible, but with a lot of hard work, just like anything else. So to answer your question, how did 2023 go? If I step back 1 year, the year before I came on, I was about halfway on that year. Between 2021 and 2022, our program grew. And the way we measure our growth in 2 ways: number of participants and number of total queues those participants produced. That first year, between 2021 and 2022, we grow at a 42% year over year rate.
Wow.
Now, if you look at the dynamics of why that happened, there was organic growth within the program, but I had only spent 3 or 4 months, trying to get the word out. John was so involved in administering the program, he had almost no time to get the word out. We had an anomaly back in 21. There was a group down in Indonesia that got involved. It was a president of a club that got involved and really solicited a lot of hams. We had a gigantic increase in participation through that club activity. I mean, there was hundreds in the club, and they that year in 2022 actually won the club plaque.
Wow.
Okay. And they didn't win it by a little bit. They won it 49,000 points. Okay. Now you get 1 point for one country. You get 1 point for one CQ zone. You can go through your calculations. They literally had hundreds of people. That fueled that growth. Why it happened, I have no idea. But somebody, a leader down there in a club, really caught on to DX Marathon, and he did some major recruiting and organized. Now, okay, that's 2021 to 22. My expectation, I thought that was kind of a binary event. My expectation, and don't ask me how I got it, but I would have been happy with a 2023 growth of 20%. Anytime you can grow anything 20% today, particularly in our hobby, which is literally flat to declining a little bit. I'm a happy camper. Much to my surprise, on January 5th, when all the submissions were in, I was told by Sebastian KI2D that, Mark, we have a 50% growth this year in 2023 over 22. And I literally almost fell off of my chair. I still have not, I will be there, but I don't know exactly where that came from. I don't know if it was pure organic growth. If it was through a lot of my Zoom meetings. I know I did 60 Zoom meetings and there was 15 to 20 people in every one of those club meetings. You know, if I hit 20% of them, I have no idea. And I don't know if I'll ever know, but when I look at the data in 2023, I will be able to, I'll be able to tell sort of where that growth came from. Okay. And I don't think we had a binary event like we had between 21 and 22. So to answer your question, we had a 50% growth in participants and a 55% growth in number of cues that those participants generated. We had 370,000 cues. That I know right now in 2023.
Wow.
So I just, it's really amazing.
You know, it's funny what you said about getting the word out, because the way I came upon the program, I was in a secondhand bookstore and I found a book called A Year of DX by Bob Locker.
Bob Locker.
And I read it. I've read that book. I read it about every other year. So I've read that book 3 times and I feel like I'm sitting there with him. It's so well written, but all of a sudden it was like, well, I think I can do this. And that's what got me into it, was reading that book. So, and another thing I always tell people, it's a reason to work Germany one more time, you know, because most of us would have Germany, you know, 5,000 times in our logs, but I need 5,001 now that it's 2024. So, wow, that's tremendous. Well done.
By the way, Bill, I don't know if you realize, Bill actually has a second edition of that. I have both of them here. He's got 2 editions. He wrote a second edition to that same book. And
So, is it the same name?
you know, I don't know
Because
exactly.
I have 2 of his books, but I'll bet the other ones, I'll bet it's not the second edition. It's probably.
You're right. It's a different name. You're
Okay.
right.
All right. So, you know, you want to talk about maybe some change, a major change you're about to announce. If this is so growing so quickly and it's such a huge success, and I would really concur that it is, why do you feel like we should do a variant right now?
That's a real good question. I shared a little bit of my philosophy and my business philosophy, which I've just carried over to this, and I guess I carry over my life. I think whether you're talking about human personal development, whether you're talking about a company, whether you're talking about a department, whether you're talking about a church, I have always been of the belief that things don't stay stagnant. They don't stay where they are. Most of the time, things will either decline or they'll increase, okay, in whatever you're doing, whether it's revenues, whether it's profitability, whether it's a church, you know, it doesn't matter. So I think leadership in any organization needs to understand that concept and needs to understand who their customers are and how they keep their customers interested in their product. And I look at all of our participants as my customers. I look at all my participants as people that I'm serving. Okay. And to that extent, I want to always look at the product that we're offering them to see if it is adding value to something in their lives that they're doing within amateur radio. And I ask myself that question a lot. So to answer your question directly, why do you think we need to do something different in subsequent years when we've just been through 2 amazing years? And that is a real, that is a real good question. I'm also, I can't turn this off. I was watching the Eagles get their, you know what, handed to them.
No, they're not, are they?
Yeah, they're getting beat. So what I was saying is I I've always have to look at the product that we're offering to make sure, regardless if we're growing, that it is adding value to the people that are using it. Okay. Now, I'm a Midwesterner. I'm from Peoria, Illinois. I'm flyover. So I'm also very conservative. And I have seen many mistakes being made in companies and in churches and everything else where they have got over ambitious and made so much changes to their core business that they got themselves in trouble. So between the first year I took this over, between 22 and 23, the first thing, and I talked to John about this, I wanted to definitely do, I said, I do not want to change one thing in our rules. We have to go through a transition where we're going from a one-man operation to 5 people. And I know from my experience, there's a lot of opportunities for things to slip through the crack. And the worst thing we can do to our customers is come in to this program and bungle it up. People will leave like flies. They say, I don't need to put up, they got other things to do with their time. So I intentionally didn't change anything in the rules for 2023, literally nothing. And I told my people, I said, look, because everybody, all my new people, they had all these ideas. I got a board of directors and they said, oh, Mark, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? I had ideas. John, K9EL, had a whole list. I said, John, what would you do if you were going to administer this program for some more years? What would you do? He gave me a list that was like this long. Huh. Great ideas. Great ideas. So what we're doing, Bill, Joe, is we're incrementally changing, and we did make some changes in 2024. I clarified the category classes because I didn't like that one class that had the QRP and formula together. So I got 4 very clear. I went through all the rules. I tried to clarify them. By the way, we have all the rules translated in 13 languages. I think a lot of the issues that we have sometimes when we score and we find mistakes, 2/3 of our program is international. About 1/3 is
Really?
US.
Wow.
1/3 is US and Canada, but 2/3 of our participants are all over the world. Okay. Just because somebody says they know English doesn't mean they know English,
Right.
And the rules are not easy to read sometimes. And I mean, if you can give a station name and a signal report in English, doesn't mean that you know the English language.
Right.
So I immediately got some wonderful volunteers out in our participating group, and I asked them if they could translate that in their native language. I still leave it open. If somebody wants to bring something in, I'll be happy to post it. So we wanted, I guess the first thing we did in 04 was we tried to continue to simplify our program. One of the assets of our program is it's simple. No QSLs, no multipliers, no verification. We try to keep it simple. That's the first thing. The second thing I did is I brought in 2 overlays that I believe represent target growth areas for us. One is youth, and we've talked about youth all the time. Gosh, we just need to figure out a way to get new blood in our hobby today if it's going to survive. We're all getting old, and I have a video that shows what's happened in Japan since 2000, and it has about 10 countries down the y-axis, and they play a little music to it, and it shows the total number of hams. Japan in 2000 had 1.6 million ham radio operators. They were number 1 in the world. You know what they are today? About 350,000. So this, I can send you this video, but it shows how countries are growing or expanding or reducing. We're holding at about 750,000, and believe it or not, we're pretty steady. We're not decreasing, we're not increasing, but my philosophy on that. You got to do something to, we need to continue to grow. But so I've got the youth. I've got a plaque for the number 1 youth, and then we're going to issue certificates for the number 1 youth in every continent in the world. I'm trying to pull that through. I've got a YL overlay. We're going to issue a plaque for the number 1 YL, and I have certificates for the top YL in each one of the continents. Wow. I want to increase participation in those sub-segments. There's some other things I want to do yet that it might have to wait till 2025. Certain countries in our international sector are severely underrepresented compared to the population of hams. I don't know why. They don't know about it. They're not promoting it or whatever. I've got those targeted, so I'm gonna try to get mentors within these countries, within clubs, to help promote it. So that's another thing. But I'm not doing anything. Let's see. The last thing is a challenge, which is really what you ask about. The challenge, all of us are familiar with the DX challenge. Okay, so this idea was not my idea. This was the idea of two individuals, one of which was Mr. K9EL. John had this vision to do a challenge, but of course he was overwhelmed and he didn't have a way to implement it himself. We have another board member, we call him OMS, PY5EG. He is an amazing guy out of Brazil. He's a huge financial supporter of the DX Marathon program, always has been and continues to be. He called me mid last year and he said, Mark, he said, when OMS talks, I listen. He's a gentle man, and he is very smart and just the epitome of what I think the ham radio operator. He's just well versed. He's very smart guy. But anyway, and he described this challenge program. He said, furthermore, Mark, I'll sponsor the plaque, #1 plaque and the runner up, and I'd like you to see if you could do this year. So I went to work and we put together a challenge. Okay, and I'll get down to what the challenge is. It's really not that complicated. What we're doing, and I don't know how it's going to come out yet. I've got about a dozen signups, and I'm gonna allow about 75 because again, I like to walk before I run. I like to do things slowly, and the other thing is that it could have a major impact on our scoring because each candidate now who enters the challenge, it's the 8 bands between 80 and 10 meters, including the WARC bands. And instead of, let's say if you are in the marathon and let's say you wanted to put in a single band, 17 meters, okay, you'd have one submission, 17 meters, all modes, and you'd turn it in. The people that sign up for the challenge are going to have 8 submissions for each band, 80 through 10. And then we're going to sum all their scores. So I have the potential of adding 75 times 8 scores. Right. So I had to kind of constrain it. And also my Larry Lone, my scoring manager said, Mark, I said, we got to be careful. This thing could get out of hand, out of control. And I said, yeah, it could. But it's really focused, and I don't know how it's going to turn out yet. Ohms and John and a couple other veterans, they love the marathon, but just like anything else, you do it 10, 15 years, you kind of get bored with it. For some of the real veterans that wanted, and a lot of these veterans who have the mega stations, in the first 3 months, they got 250 points, 275 points. And then they sit around the rest of the year, kind of saying, what do I do now? The challenge is going to be, I think, for those guys to pick up. Now they've got 8 bands to play with to work as many CQDX entities and zones in 8 bands.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I think it's going to make them really happy. People like Ohms, people like John, K9EL, and I could name a bunch of other hams who are really veteran DXers. And I think it's going to be kind of like a stimulus to their DX. And again, we're serving our customers. These veterans, we value them.
So if I'm just in the normal marathon, I work Romania once, and that counts as Romania, and it counts as, what are they, 15, zone 15?
Zone 15.
So that's my 2 points, and that's it. So
that's it.
What the challenge is saying is, if I work Romania on 8 bands, that's 16 points, right? Because I've got them each time on and that entity on 8 bands.
Yes,
okay.
Sir. Yes, sir.
It is interesting because once getting ready for this, I went back and looked at my log for last year. And I basically work anything I can hear, anywhere I can hear it, and I'll let the software worry about, whether it's a point or not. I was surprised how many countries I had 6 or 7 times. So certainly not that I would be a K9EL or something, but you do end up accumulating a lot of points. So well done. That sounds exciting.
Bill, it's an experiment. We can keep it. I think we're going to keep it. We'll see how the outcome is. The other thing, and I've had a number of requests on this, and it's a very legitimate request. This is across all classes. Unlimited, limited, formula, QRP. Believe it or not, I got a couple QRPs that have already indicated. Now they're going to be at a significant disadvantage, but at least this first year, I'm going to keep it generic across all, and then we'll see how it goes, see how we can manage it, and then I may divide it then eventually into unlimited, limited, formula, and QRP. Who knows? I don't know. I just don't know. But I want to try it right now, and I want to see how it goes. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I really do, and we'll see, and then we will make our decisions 3/4 of the way through this year as how we going to handle, what are we going to do for 2025?
Joe, did you have a question?
So you're going to have 75 players, am I correct, Mark?
That's correct. We're capping it at 75. I've asked everybody who is interested to send me a personal email by February 15th.
Okay, and that was my next question. How does someone sign up? Send you an email. WC3W at dxmarathon.com. It's on the website, and just send me an email, say, hey, I'm in. Now, let me explain one other thing. If you commit to being in the challenge, you can't enter any other category. You can't go single band, you can't do unlimited or whatever. That is your category, number one. Number two, if you decide to reserve and then you decide you don't want to do it, that's okay. And you can still go in and do what you want to do. I'm concerned about the top end. I don't want it to get out of control. If we end up having 60, that's fine. I don't care. Right. I'm protecting myself against a runaway here, because I had no idea. I had no expectation as to how this was going to be received. And they're slowly coming in. I got about a dozen, but I've only had it up for less than a week, and we've got till February 15th. So some people don't even know about it yet.
February 15th.
Well, that's the reason we're doing this. We want them to know about it.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as I read this, I thought, what can we do to help get this out? So
thank you very much, you guys.
So, hey, if I can make a suggestion on an overlay, podcaster overlay, I think Joe and I would prefer that. And
okay.
I might be able, I'll finish in the middle of the pack that way. Otherwise,
well, I'll tell you just what I tell everybody, that I get a lot of emails, as you can appreciate. And I'm a firm believer in my MBA class. I learned IBM a long time ago. I don't know who their leader was, but 95% of their new product and service innovations come from their customers. And I'm a great believer in that, not from their R&D, from their customers. Yeah. And I never turn down, and I always acknowledge anybody that has a suggestion on a program. I can't say we're going to do everything, but I appreciate people sending me emails and say, hey, have you considered, or would you consider? I love it. And I've got a special file that I put, a lot of those ideas in. And once we get through 2023, we're gonna get on to something else, which, may I mention this also?
Please. My next question was going to be, what else is coming?
This is very important. I've just commissioned one of our board members to get all of the 2023 submittals. We have had basically the same award structure for 17 consecutive years. It hasn't changed. Our demographics, our participation demographics, our volume has changed significantly. So what I'm going to do right after we get through this scoring period, this person is going to produce a report and take a look at all the demographics that we have, how many people have entered in single band, how many people are in unlimited, how many people are unlimited, how many youth, how many women, whatever. And we're going to do a full analysis of our award structure and make any necessary changes if we have to. It hasn't been done in 17 years. Again, I don't want to do anything drastic. If anything, I want to increase the awards and the recognition, because I know a lot of participants out there work really, really hard
on this program. And I want to acknowledge achievements. I really want to acknowledge it's very important for somebody to have a certificate or a plaque. It really, really is. I know how important it is to people. So I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing in terms of our whole award structure. So you may see some changes in 2025 pending that analysis.
Well, I'll tell you why that's really important. About a year ago or a little bit longer, I had a really great conversation with Ray Novak from ICOM.
Mhm.
And one of Ray's issues always was we bring these young people or we bring passionate people to a dinner, DX dinner typically, like ours, which by the way, if you want tickets, they're on sale now. Drop me an email at AJB. Anyway, so
This is Dayton.
huh?
This is Dayton.
This is Dayton,
Yes.
and then we do this stand-up thing, right? So
I'm planning to be in Dayton. So
okay.
I have to.
What always struck Ray is that you got some young guys there who have 150 and 160. They don't start the count off until about 200. And by the time they get to 340 or 350, it's, 90-year-old guys that are getting help to get up and get down again. So what happens to the young guy sitting there who is proud and should be proud of his 153, but it kind of takes the steam out. So I love the fact that you're looking for ways to just recognize people they're frankly, maybe it's their best score. So, hey, here's an opportunity to hang something on the wall. I think that's terrific.
Sure. There's two mega class. If you look from the 30,000 foot level in our program, there's two classes of people that participate. Okay. There's people that do it for the competition, and there's people to do it just to self-evaluate themselves. I'll be honest with you. I'm a very competitive person. I've gone for the gold. I've competed in athletics. Everything I do, I go for the gold. But as long as I've been in DX Marathon, 7 years, I think it was my first year, 7 years ago, I didn't want another plaque and I didn't want another certificate. I used to work for a guy that told me a long time, and one of the smartest guys I ever worked for, he said, Mark, he says, if you can't measure something, it ain't worth doing. I like a metric to tell me how I was doing from 1 year to the next on my DX activity. It tells me how serious I am, how often how am I upgrading my equipment, my stations. If I do, I love CW. It's my favorite operating mode. How are my skills doing in that area? It's a totality of how you're doing chasing DX. And I argue in a lot of my presentations, ham radio is DX. It's the reason I got into it. There's 2.75 million hams around the world. I don't know how many are in DX, but I'll bet 50% are or more. I mean, it's really the reason for. I mean, so I do it, and so those are the two classes, and I recognize that very much, and I'm very sensitive to the competitors because many times, this year, the top 10 guys are separated by maybe 5 points. It's incredible how keen the competition is. I respect those guys. They take this seriously, but I also respect the people that are in it for the fun and for the self-improvement. And I got to make sure that I recognize both groups, people who are achieving in both groups.
Well done. I know one thing I'm looking forward to is that, for years, the submission process would be, you'd fill out maybe a spreadsheet and you send it in. And then several years ago, I used DX Labs. So several years ago, Dave, and I am absolutely at a loss for his call. Is it AA6YQ?
AA6YQ.
Yeah. So Dave put together, a push button. So basically that comes out. So I submitted that. Well, 1 year I had the wrong zone in there. So I got docked a point, but I had to go through all that data by hand just to find that EA6 is not in zone 18, it's in 50. So this year, that application you guys came up with for me to go in and actually edit my submission, brilliant. And because I am software natured guy, I tried to break it and I couldn't break it. And the help files were there, and it was really well done. So if the rest of what you're putting together is on par with that, I'm excited.
Let me say one thing here, and by and large, the submission tool I believe is a brilliant idea. It wasn't my idea. Again, it basically Larry and Sebastian, my two really IT people, we were dealing with an Excel spreadsheet. Excel spreadsheets are 20 years old. It was developed in 2003. You're a software guy, you know that.
And it was an unnecessary step. Okay. And they said, and John K9EL was a huge proponent of this. So I had three very, very expert guys. I'm not a software guy. I'm an engineer, but I'm not a software guy. So they said, this is what we want to do with our submission tool. And I'm going to go through the details, but let me make one statement here for those people that might be listening that are concerned. We have streamlined the submission tool. By the way, we started beta testing this. I sent it out to 100 people before Thanksgiving. I sent it out to another tranche after that. And the feedback we were getting was incredible. They said, this is beautiful, beautiful. And, we had all the submissions. We had one little hiccup, but we fixed it right away. The submissions have been amazing, all 50% more. It's amazing. Okay. But what I want to say is you're going to be able to in about a week, we're going to put a spreadsheet up. It'll be obtainable. And for people that were used to using a spreadsheet, you can still use a spreadsheet and you will still be able to submit through a spreadsheet. If you want to use an ADA file, you can do that too. But we're not eliminating the spreadsheet, and we're not eliminating it. I know people like to print it out. They like to keep it on their desk. They like to manually keep track. You're going to be able to do that. It should be up by the end of this week on our website. So, we're not changing anything radically. We're trying to simplify it, make less steps in it. Now, having said all this, you still got to realize that there is one and only one person that is responsible for the integrity and the quality of your log, and that is the operator. Our software is not going to go in and do checking on zones and all that stuff. That's your responsibility, and our software will probably never do that. Okay, so we do encourage everybody to carefully check it. Sebastian's tool has made it a lot easier to do that, as you just stated. It makes it easier. If you're not comfortable with one entity, and you've got 10 entities there, and you have an LOTW confirmation on one of them, throw it in there, man. You know that one's not going to be bumped. You've got a lock on it. It's going to give you that choice. Okay. The other thing I want to say is I have a full-time guy, K2CIB, John Samuels. He happens to be my partner in my remote station down here. He literally spends hundreds of hours a year in the helpful hints on our website. We have pirate calls, we have broken calls, we have missed spots, we have de-expeditions, when they started, when they end. There is so much information on our website, but it's incumbent on the users to use it. We're not incorporating that into software and purify your logs for you. It's your responsibility as participants to use those tools to make your log clean. And by the way, with the new submission tool, you can submit in July if you want. In July, and then you can submit in August, and then you can every time you submit, you can refine until the final, because the last one is the only one that's going to retain. Okay, before you couldn't do that. You had to wait until January 1st, and you had 5 days to do it. With this new submission tool, there's no rush. There's no rush whatsoever.
Yeah, I appreciated that. So to kind of summarize, if you want to participate in the classic CQ marathon, nothing's changed. Just get in there, go after it. But if you want, you can pursue something called the CQ marathon, and I'm drawing a blank. The challenge. I'm sorry. That's right. The CQ marathon challenge, which then is a compilation of CQ marathon for 8 bands, basically. Yeah. And they can do that by sending you an email, right? And say, I want to participate in this. And that's wc3w@cqmarathon.com, right?
DXMarathon.com.
I'm sorry, DXMarathon.com. And I will put that in the show notes. And see how that goes. It's the first 75. It's an experiment, but we're excited about it.
Thank you. We are too. We'll see how it goes. And, if you're new to the program, I wouldn't necessarily push you to go into the challenge the first year. You ought to get used to the dynamics of the program. So go into the unlimited, or go into the single band, or go into the single mode. We have awards for top worldwide, top digital, top phone, top CW. Pick something you really, really like. Those 2 slides I show in my presentation, I always challenge people. I said,
if you got a radio and you got an antenna and you got a license, I defy you to tell me if I haven't slotted where you are, either in terms of your resources, in terms of your equipment, your antennas and whatever, and your likes. You like digital. We have people that do nothing but digital. Okay.
Yeah.
We got my friend down here, the guy I mentioned, where I met John K9EL at 82 years old. He won't touch FT8. He loves CW. He got into the program. He scored 319 on CW, and he won number one in the world.
Wow.
So
Holy cow.
whatever you like to do, I think you can pick something in the marathon program and just go do it and have fun.
And what is the website where they can get all this information?
www.dxmarathon.com.
And if they have any questions about any part, not just what we talked about tonight, but you're okay if they drop you a note?
Absolutely. We also have a group IO. If you go on group IO, dxmarathon.com, when I started this year, you'll appreciate this, Bill, I had about 100 participants. We got 475 now.
Wow.
And that's still only 25% of our total I want to get it even higher, because then you got all your members talking to each other and questions asked, and it's a wonderful forum to just chat or say, hey, I worked this guy. Is this a legitimate call? Chances are somebody else has worked him. And they say, oh yeah, I've confirmed it. I got a LOTW confirmation or what. It's a great way to talk among participants.
Wonderful. Joe, did I miss anything?
No, so far both of you are doing great.
Thank you. Coming from you, that means a lot, buddy.
It does actually. So,
Yes,
well, Mark, I appreciate your time, and we're gonna get this out and spread the news, and good luck to you, man. Oh man, you're going. I just love the passion, the excitement, and anytime somebody wraps their arms around something and run with it, I respect that. I enjoy watching it. So good luck to you.
Thank you. This is a wonderful hobby, and what this program is all about. And I have to remind my staff, we're here to have fun. That's all we're here to do. We're here to have fun, and we're here to make it fun for those people participating. That's all.
Congratulations, Mark.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for this time. I really appreciate it.
All right, everybody stay warm. Thanks again.
Okay.
Are you excited? I am. Whether or not you're a contester, if you're on the air, you're already doing what is needed to participate. So why not track your progress and turn the results in at the end of the year? Thank you for joining me on this edition of the DX Mentor. I would especially like to thank our gurus on this podcast, Mark, WC3W, and Joe, WAGEX. I would love to have your feedback, answer your questions, and provide help with any DX or amateur radio issues that you may have. If you need clarification on something or you just have a question, email me at thedxmentor@gmail.com. You can also drop me a line if you've achieved an all-time new one, received recognition, or you have a DX event that you would like us to mention. We would be happy to do that. And finally, if you liked what you heard, please hit the like button and subscribe so others can enjoy each episode and you won't miss the next one. 7-3 for now, and thanks to my XYL Karen for her love and support.